Welcome to the Real and Raw podcast show. My name's James Forrester.
I'm Russell Quirk.
Welcome to the Real and Raw show. I won't hold back. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real and Raw show with me, James Forrester. And I am delighted to announce today that I have Abby.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. A bit of a social media superstar from what we are seeing in the property world.
A little bit.
And obviously you're a bit famous because you have been on Channel 5.
I have, yes.
Yep, and you are the director of Touchstone Education, basically allowing people to learn about how to get into property investment and hopefully make money out of it.
Yes.
Not always, but most of the time they should make money out of it. Because as we know, in property, it can go up and it can go down, and it's also about the long-term gain. So tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know a little bit from doing research, but some of the viewers might be thinking, well, who are you? You know, and why would I be interviewing you?
Cool. So my name's Abby Hookway. I'm a property investor. I've been doing it for about 6 years. And I train other people how to do property. And it all started for me because I divorced my husband. I had 2 little children.
That's a good start.
Yeah, really good start into property, just to get divorced. Divorced my husband, had 2 little kids, and at the age of 31, when you get divorced, you divide your assets, I was like, oh my gosh, I've worked really hard, done what the system told me to do, and I've not got anywhere, and we were just literally dividing zero. So I was in a little rented house with my kids, and I was thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Go and work for Monday to Friday for 40 years of my life, or do I use this occasion to do something different? And that evening, I was just Googling, and I come across a strategy where you use other people's money to buy property. And it was like a light bulb going off. It was like, my gosh, I could create an amazing life for me and my kids going into property. So in 24 grand worth of debt, I stepped in property and haven't looked back since.
You've transformed it completely around. I do have to put a disclaimer there, because obviously I'm not been divorced yet, and I'm not hoping to. But if my wife does watch this, don't take any notice of what's being said here. I will not be splitting any assets whatsoever altogether. But you've also written some books that have been some big sellers on Amazon.
Yes, so I've written Profit from Property Don't Own, which is a strategy that we call Rent to Rent, and a book about flipping property. Okay. So you buy it, do it up, and you sell it, and you make money that way.
Which was your bestseller?
Both of them.
Okay. Which is your favourite?
Probably my newest one, the Flip or Flop Flipping Property, because I really like taking property that's not loved, making it look pretty, and then being able to sell it on to another family to use.
Fantastic. Now, I've got a first question, and it's real and raw. And I always, even though I have been told to stick to the agenda on this, I always have one question that I'm sure you get asked probably a lot of times. People who try and tell people how to do property investment, why? Because you would just do it yourself. Why would you want to get everybody else who really wants to get onto the market, make money from investment, and say, you know what, for the goodness of me, I'm going to tell you how to do it? We all know that's not true. You know, obviously you do make money by obviously teaching people how to do it. Otherwise, you know, a lot of other people out there. But what are the pros and cons, and why are you doing it? You know, why just concentrate on Abby and her portfolio and build it? Why are you helping everybody else?
I think when I was divorced on my own with my 2 kids in 24 grand worth of debt, not being able to make ends meet, anybody that's been in that situation just knows you just feel stuck. You're very dark. You don't know a way out. And I found property, and it was the remaking of me, being able to give so much to my kids. And if I can give that back to others. Now, I think you cannot just go and do property. Anybody that tells you that is not going to build a multi-million pound portfolio. I mean, in 6 years, my portfolio is worth about 6.5. I think I'm buying one next week, maybe 7 million. So 7 million pounds. It generates me an amazing lifestyle that I can have. And I could just sit at home and watch Netflix or go on the beach and have cocktails. But I feel like I've got
to do both.
I could watch Netflix, be on the beach. I could do both. But I feel like I've got so much to give to people. And if I can help somebody that's been in my situation, but people watch my YouTube channel and they go, yeah, it's easy, I can do it. They end up contacting me because they do it in a mess. They don't do it in the right structure. They get stung by Section 24. They're buying property where they're going to have to spend thousands on the new EPC regulations. I genuinely don't believe you can do it without being educated properly. And it doesn't have to be my company. There's great companies out there that do it. But it's like if you want to be a brain surgeon, you go to uni, you get the right training, don't you? And I think property is the same. And this misconception you can do property without being educated is just wrong.
Do you think the industry could be tainted a little bit in the education world? Because obviously there's great people out there who obviously do it properly, but obviously I've been in this industry now nearly 24 years coming up. there's some bad people out there as well. I'm not going to name and shame, obviously, on the show who I think, but do you think it damages it a little bit because people have either been burnt before, but they've still got that desire to get into property, or they're too naive and they're thinking, like you said, God, I can get into this. I see TikTok videos by people and YouTube videos. I'm going to make a fortune by not putting any money in myself, or not sure how it goes. The structure's wrong. And then all of a sudden they realize that maybe it's a little harder than what it's made out to be for the social media channels.
Oh, I think 100%. There's bad property trainers out there. There's good property trainers, bad universities out there, good universities, bad hospitals, good hospitals. You get both, don't you? And I think it is quite difficult to navigate which one you want to go to. And I always tell people, do your due diligence on the property training company. Have they actually got properties? Are they making money from properties? There's been one of our students that were with a different company before they come to us, and they've loaned £150,000 of their money to somebody else to do a property. I think it was a flip that they were going to do, and they've not got the right contracts, the right legal work in place. So I said, you can wave goodbye to that 150 grand because you've not done it correctly. So I think people just need to understand that there's always both sides in any industry. And
what's it like then when you have somebody like that and then they're seeing you and you're being the honest one, where unfortunately in the property industry doesn't matter if you're education, estate agent, letting agent or anything, we're all classed the same and we are one of the least trusted industries. I think we're more trusted than a politician, so that's probably good. But we are, I think, in the bottom 5 of trusted professions. But what is it like when you've got to go, I've got to tell you some home truths here, you're going to lose your money from what you've already done. How do you feel, obviously, doing it, but how do they feel when you're sort of telling them this, but at the same time, you're going, I might be able to help you.
Yeah.
I can structure it differently, or you might, if you want to keep going, forget about this, but we can look at this going forward. How does that sort of come across?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of anger on their side that they didn't get the right information, or they've not, because people get very excited about how much money they can make in property. And I think the excitement runs away and then they don't actually do the proper research. With this student, we're going to help them, and we've got solicitors already sorting stuff out and putting the proper charge on the property so they're protected. Yep. But yeah, I think it's, I like it the most when I get to help people and I get to sort these things out and then raise some awareness. And again, it's not naming or shaming different property education companies, because there is, like you were saying, good ones and bad ones. It's just people need, and then also people pick up what they want to hear. Like, I know what's in my training, and then people go and do the opposite. Which is frustrating for me, because I'm like, I said to you that the best structures for you is a limited company. Why have you gone and bought it in your personal name? No wonder you're not making any money, because you're just getting hit now.
You're get taxed and everything.
Yeah. So people have to take responsibility for their own actions, and all we can do is educate and advise in the best way to help them build.
Okay. And do you find, like, within your company now, do you find there's a certain sort of demographic of client, like age-wise, or who's looking to do this? Is it the sort of the young generation who are trying to get on the market, that attack me quite a lot on social media because I keep telling them to go back to the office to work? Or is it somebody who's sort of done the hard bit already and then they're thinking, I just want to get a bit further now in life?
Our students are mostly professionals, so we have loads of doctors. They're earning over 100 grand a year, but they understand that if they stop working, they've got nothing. It's financial freedom, isn't it? So we have a lot of doctors, solicitors, architects, because they help people, but they never get on themselves. So that's our demographic. I get attacked a lot on social media by landlords that have been in the game 30, 40 years that tell me that I'm talking a load of crap, that buy-to-lets don't make you, money. And when I have to explain to them, probably my portfolio is 50% buy-to-let, but I've got commercial, I run holiday lets, I'm doing developments, I'm doing other stuff as well. It's not just buy-to-lets.
You're not putting all your eggs in one basket on one particular type.
No, and then I go back to these landlords and I say, did you ever get educated? No, just bought a house and, been self-managing it myself for years. Yeah. Never invested in it. I'm like, well...
So it is interesting that, because, as you know, my background with purpose-built student accommodation, it's the same. I'll get attacked a lot, in regards to this, because effectively we're taking people away from them type of properties that people used to buy all the time, because students do look for a different caliber of property now, altogether. And it's, it can be hard to keep up with the trends, but property is a trend, of what people look for, where it is and the location, and you have to change all the time. So obviously you started, I'm really interested in this, because obviously, as you say, you got divorced. Obviously bringing up kids, obviously then on your own is always difficult. On hard. So obviously your first priority is your kids, really, rather than the business from that. But you started it from really, obviously, apart from the debt, £1,000 you managed to get, and then you got into it. So, did you actually know anything about the property market prior to doing all this, or was it like brand new?
all brand new. So the £1,000 was what I used for my very first property deal, but I did lend a lot of money to do the course. So I went on a full 12 months mastermind with Touchstone, actually, who I've become, obviously, trainer for in the future.
You beat my next question. I was going to ask which book did you read?
It was Paul Smith, who's my very good friend, lives in Monaco, obviously owns Touchstone Education. And I came across him and I thought I just need to get this money together. So I was already in 24 grand worth of debt. So being a very clever single mum on my own, I decided to get in 15 grand's worth of debt to do the course. And that's why I know it works if you put the time and effort in.
And do you think that's your drive? Because obviously, you were on your own. Obviously, you're a single mum, and you're looking at it going, I just want something better for the family life here. Do you think that was the driving key to make sure that it was going to turn out to be a success?
Yeah, it's like someone puts a gun against your head. You're already in 24 grand worth of debt. You just taken another 15 grand out. Your friends and family think you've lost the plot because you've divorced your quite wealthy husband and you're trying to do this on your own and now you're living in a little tiny little rented house. You don't even own a house yet you're trying to be a property investor. I got laughed out the market, but I knew to give my children the life that I wanted to give, just have money to let them go on school trips and things. And I knew it was something that I needed to do. So I did not give up. I was that person that would work 17 hours a day. I put the kids to bed. I was on learning the courses. I was ringing loads of estate agents, just building my network because I knew I needed to get this right.
Did many of them answer?
Not late at night.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's one of the downsides of estate agents. They all shut at 5 o'clock when everyone else is stopping working, they actually close, and it's a thing. So, really interesting. So we've got a few questions that have been put forward to us. I think we've just got to give a shout out to where we are in a beautiful bar restaurant called Manhattan on Temple Street in Birmingham. So thank you for putting us up and allowing us to do the podcast here. So if you are in Birmingham and you want to come, great place to come. Very American themed as well, but absolutely fantastic on a Thursday or Friday or even a Saturday. Not that I pop in on any of them days as well. So one of the questions I've been put through is, have you ever lost money on an investment property, or has it just been a smooth ride all the way through?
I would love to tell you it's been a smooth ride, but my honest answer is I have lost quite a bit of money. So
how much?
Probably, if I was to put a figure on it, maybe 20, 30 grand.
Was that over one deal or multiple deals?
A few deals, really. So one of my first deals was a commercial deal. I didn't have enough education around commercial at the time because I decided that I knew, my ego got in the way and I was like, I only know what I'm doing now. I'm just going to run out and do it. And then I didn't. And I didn't realise about commercial lending and stuff. So I lost money on commercial broker. Who else did I lost? So planning at the time, because I put planning in. So completely cocked that deal up. A few years later, I went and bought a house next to a station, or it was an old station called Station House. And the way it had been done. So I walked into it and I was like, 40 grand refurb, it's okay. But I didn't realise the way the house was positioned, how close it was to the track, that we'd have to shut off the track every 5 minutes to get windows and stuff done. That turned into a nightmare. So I sold that one at auction and lost a bit of money on it. So I think over the last 6 years, to build my £6.5 million portfolio, I would say I've probably lost 20 to 30 grand.
Okay. Well, they're good figures when you look at it, because it's not a big loss so far. But how did you take it personally when you lose money on a deal? Because you're only as good as your last deal, aren't you, in this business? So
the first one, I was so horrified and upset because obviously I was in a lot of debt, still living in a rented house with 2 kids, looking at them and they're looking at me, wanting me to feed them and look after them. And I've just gone and screwed like 2.5, 3 grand up against the wall. I really had second thoughts about, crap, property is not for me and I'm just crap at it and a bad person. But then with my coach at the time, he's like, it's just a failure, but this is going to make sure your next commercial deal you get right, because you now know all of this and you know what you need to do. So I always think where failure comes, then afterwards you get your biggest success.
And I'm intrigued on this then, because obviously your coach naturally has got to put you through this because you're paid them money. And that's what people who'll be watching this thinking, well, of course they're going to say you're going to do well, the next one, because otherwise there's no point doing courses going forward. But obviously you've stuck with it and you've had that resilience. But what were your friends saying to you sort of privately when you're going, look, I've just lost more money on a property deal? Are they sort of saying, look, Abby, just don't get into this? Stop now, basically.
Tell you what, I've lost the money.
Sometimes that's probably better than, altogether. Just don't tell them and let them know when you're making money as well. Because in this industry, I think it is interesting, especially with what's happening now as we're filming this at the moment. People say there's a big cost of living crisis, and there's something out there. I wouldn't personally call it a cost of living crisis. And I know some people are really hurting at the moment, but you only have to go out into the cities on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and they're busy. Retail's actually just announced that they're up on their footfall. Hospitality are not crying like they used to. And I'll get attacked for saying that. But, when people aren't coming in, hospitality will start to panic because they are, a demand business. People are coming in, birthdays, parties, just to meet for friends. Some of them are busier than ever before, altogether. So all of a sudden, where we find the cost of living is a bit interesting, but people are complaining interest rates have gone up. Altogether. So what are you teaching at the moment on this? Because I'll have my own thoughts on this, and most people will go, and there's certain people on social media at the moment that I get attacked that are predicting that in the next, they keep changing their timelines on this, but they've been predicting for probably the last year and a bit, a 30 to 35% price drop as well. That 1.5 years keeps moving as it doesn't happen. But where do you stand on this? So do you think prices are going to completely drop? Do you think it's the right time to buy? Do you think you should wait? I'm intrigued for your thoughts.
So if we look back over the last 100 years of property, since the house price index began, property's gone up 963%. It doubles every 7 to 10 years. And yes, there's corrections and slowing of the market, but property has never dropped 20, 30, 40% ever. It dropped 2007, 2008, but that was manufactured by the bank. But if you look at the 80s and 90s, it only dropped 4-5%. So I don't think we've got a problem. I'm telling my students to buy now more than ever. There's great deals out there. A property I offered on last week, they've come back to me and they've accepted my 20 grand under asking price. So I'm excited I get a new house. So I think people should keep buying. And I do not think, when I first got into property, there was Brexit. And I can remember one of the MPs at the time was saying that the property market was going to crash 17%. It never crashed. Then Scottish referendum, property prices are going to crash, never going to crash. COVID, property prices are going to go down, never. The problem is we're in a huge housing shortage at the minute, like massive. So when something's in demand and you don't have enough of it, how can it crash? It's slowing right now, 100% it's slowing, and it's going to maybe come down 2-3%. But last year it went up 9.4%. So it's still up. And over the last 10 years, it's still up. So I tell people it's long-term wealth.
So it'd be interesting because one of the questions that's been put forward is what advice would you give to people who are considering investing in property right now? And I think what a lot of people will say is, and they'll go, right, well, you've got a multi-million pound portfolio now. So that's all well and good for you to say, get in now. But what happens if they're just starting out and they don't really have the money yet to get in, or they're risking everything? What advice would you be giving them?
First of all, I don't think they're risking everything. You're risking everything by staying in the system, by not doing anything. What's the system giving you? It's giving you your salary, so it's paying for you to give up all your time every week. You're paying off your mortgage, paying into a pension. When you do the figures, most people right now in their 30s or 40s are going to be in poverty by the time they come to retirement. So for me, you're not risking right now. And if you don't risk something, you're going to risk your whole life. You start investing now. So I started when I was 31. By 36, retired.
I wasn't going to ask your age, just in case anyone.
I'm very young still. But yeah, so it took me 5 years and I could retire. And I'd ask people to think about what they truly want in life and whether to go. Because if you don't start risking now, everything's gone. What I'd say is get educated and do it properly. Don't just take equity from your house and just randomly invest. Get the right investment. But now's the best time while it's slowing. In the next 2-3 years, Savills and JL are predicting it's going to go back up. So do you want to buy in a rising market or buy now? Yeah.
What would you say is, what's the number one reason you're hearing why they can't do it? So you've done everything. They'll go, Abby, I think you're great. You're coming across really well. A bit like a lot of property companies and everything. I want to get in, but then all of a sudden they don't do it. What's the number one reason you're hearing why they don't want to do it at the moment?
Fear.
Okay.
They don't know what they don't know, and fear caused by the media and lots of people saying that property is like a bad game. You always get the property is a bad game because there's crappy tenants out there, when that's not the case. Because there's less than 1% of tenants cause problems. But I think it's just a lack of understanding and education why people don't do it. And it's safety. Why do 99% of people still in the UK have a 9-to-5 job? And they're going to have that job. They're going to give up 40, 50 years of their lives. They're never going to live properly and retire in poverty. Why is everybody doing that?
So you're saying the British way has got to change. We've got, people have got to decide what they want to do. And if you're happy just not doing anything, then fine. but don't complain about
just
going
get
forward,
on with
get on with life.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, conquer that fear. And actually, you have to take risks in property, even though you can try and tick every box off possible that potentially you won't lose any money. There is always that risk that something might go horribly wrong, from that. But you still have an asset you can dispose of. And as you say, you might make a slight loss if it's been the wrong deal because you're not following the right stuff. So, obviously one of the questions we put forward is, do you think that property investment is a quick, rich scheme? And I'll elaborate on this a little bit. So I think most people know that if you're buying a property as a pure buy-to-let, or if you're trying to get in, or one step further, is people haven't done buy-to-lets and they'll want to all of a sudden go into development, which you mentioned earlier, you lose money on planning very easily these days. A council does not want you to build what you want them. What you want to build. The council do not want you to build it. No. And by the time they spit out the numbers, all of a sudden you're putting the prices up just to pay for the building costs. So it always gets put back to the original people buying the property. But online, there's a lot of rent to rent, get in, Airbnb, as we're in Birmingham now. So Birmingham city centre is very against Airbnb. From that. A lot of people will think it's not, but most leaseholds, especially with the apartments in the city centre, will not allow you to do short-term lets. Yeah. But do you think, as well as the media can fuel stuff, do you think there's a lot of things out there on social media at the moment sort of trying to promote, look, it's tough now, but give us money, we'll tell you what to do, you're going to make a fortune within a year's time? And do you think that can damage the industry quite quickly?
I think there is a perception that property is a get-rich-quick scheme, and it isn't, and you can't. Can you do it quick? Most of our students in their first year will get up to £5,000 to £10,000 passive income a year. And they've done that in 12 months. But to do that in 12 months, they've given up 6 to 10 hours a week. They've studied, they've trained, they've gone out there and got it right. So I wouldn't say it's get rich quick, and I wouldn't say it's for these people that want to come in. I got sent one yesterday. This guy trying to deal source me a deal for £3,000 sent me a Rightmove link. I was like, I don't know if you know how this property finding works, but it's not that. So, yeah, and I do think a little bit it damages. And you do get these people, and I see them on TikTok all the time, pop up and go, would you like to come and make 50 grand from property? And I'm like, you can.
Yeah, but you can and you can't. I think it all depends, you say, how it's all getting done. And it's interesting that you say that, because I think that, at the moment, obviously we have record low unemployment, which is obviously what's holding the market quite a lot, where in 2008 we had record unemployment. Yeah. But I think at the moment, employment's changed quite a lot as well, from where, especially in the property world, this is the time, it's a normal market. You have to roll up your sleeves and you have to work. When the market was good, when you could get mortgages for 2%, you didn't have to do a lot from that. The market's there for you because you're in that rising market and people will follow, obviously, the rising market. But I do think it's a bit like in employment, where people just want to network and think that business will come from it. And it doesn't always come from that. You've got to be asking the right questions. You've got to be closing the business down. Like you say, if you try to get a deal, you've got to be putting it forward and how you're structuring it to get it ready. So how would you find the ethics in property investment now? What are your thoughts on it all? Because there is various things out there, and I think a lot of the viewers are looking at it going, well, who do I choose? Obviously, you want them to choose you if you're the right person for them. But do you think it should be regulated possibly now? Do you think it should fall under a bit more scrutiny than what it has been previously?
I think maybe not just if I come up to wealth building and investments in general. I think the whole wealth building and investments industry should have some regulation around it, because you've got, a lot of crypto courses out there, a lot of stocks and shares courses, Forex training courses.
And do you find that's what you fight with? Like if you're trying to attract new clients, that they've been looking at these already? Or to try to compare slightly?
I think maybe it's more of the younger generation, because our age demographic is probably 30 to 50, and it's doctors and it's more educated people that understand that crypto isn't the thing that they think it is. But yeah, definitely for the younger generation. And I think there's so much stuff out there that people need to just do the due diligence, pick wisely. We don't take every student, and I don't want everybody. I want somebody that's going to come and work hard, because I truly want to change their lives. And the thing that really, really gets me is when people want it, they've got this fantasy, but they don't put in the work. Yeah. And then, you can't help
Really?
them.
That doesn't happen in 2023.
They think by buying the course, or they'll get wealthy straight away, and it just doesn't work like that. So we're really choosy, and we only allow certain people into our academy at a time, so we can pick and choose the people that are actually going to want to do it.
How many people would you normally take on at any one time?
We have 1,000 people in our academy, and that rolls. So every month we've got people graduating, and we're checking where they are with their portfolio, and we've got new people coming in. And if they're not where they should be, or they haven't got to, minimum £5,000 a month passive income they should be having by year one with us, we'll keep them in the academy. which means we can't take on the next person because we need to work with that person.
Do you ever kick anyone out?
Yeah.
What would be the reason you have to kick them out?
We've kicked a few people out that are just negative. I think you have to understand some of the downsides of property, and it's how you ask the question. So we've kicked people out that have come on. So we do coaching calls every week, and they'll come on saying, "Oh, all builders are idiots, and builders this, builders that." We're like, well, no, it's the way you're approaching the builder. Have you got a contract, phase payments? So people that are not willing to be, probably growth mindset, we would kick out. And obviously anybody that can't complete the year, that's been in like a bad car accident or something, we would refund them and say, you need to go get better.
And then come back when it's the right time. Okay. And what do you think your thoughts are on the impact of property investment in the housing market? Because obviously at the moment, especially landlords are being hit left, right and centre. The government, I don't think it really matters which one comes in. They very much target landlords. They are the worst thing since sliced bread. But if you took the private housing sector out of this, we'd be in a much worse situation because pretty much the private sector is holding the market up, for people who can't get on the market yet to rent as well. So how would you say it's impacting?
I think we've seen the impact already. So over the last sort of 6 months, 42% of private rentals have been sold by fed up landlords. So that's 42% gone, which is causing this massive, huge fact that we're in a rental crash. We've not got enough rental stock. And we've just been seeing headlines. There was one a few days ago in the Telegraph, and it was a guy from London. He's got $2,500 he can pay for rent every month because he's got a really good job. Can he find a rented place? No. What's he having to do?
Probably can for 4K in London, not 2.5.
But he's willing to travel. Yeah. There's stuff out there. There's just not enough stock. And I think the more the government keep hitting on landlords and the more the landlords don't get supported, it's just going to cause this issue. And then the government's got its own issues because back in 2017, the Chancellor of the Exchequer said, yeah, we're going to start building 300,000 new homes a year. We're going to, massively do it. They've not even been doing half of that.
Now it's advisory, so there's no targets whatsoever now. So we're in big trouble going forward. I just want to pick up something you just said there because I'm intrigued on this. So you said obviously he wants to spend £2,500 London, but he's prepared to travel. Do you think we have a generation issue then at the moment like this, especially with people trying to get on the housing market, but they want a detached house with a double garage right here, right now, in a certain area, where what you hear a lot in the media is that everyone's spending's gone down. But you could have said this in the last 20, 30 years, that people's spending's changed. Or is it the fact that people's mindset have changed and they can look at different areas and get not what they necessarily might want there and then, but they'll get something close to it to start getting on the stepping stone ladder onto the housing market? I think we've got a bit of a generation issue going on.
Potentially, with what we saw in London, and I'll come to Manchester in a minute, his problem was he was applying for properties, but they're getting 50, 60, 70 tenants applying. I mean, you're a letting agent, How on earth does a landlord pick between 60, 70? They're going to go for the ones that offer a year upfront cash or more rent. And the same in Manchester. I recently invested in Manchester, bought some property there, and the letting agent was saying, yeah, we normally get 100 to 150 tenant applications. And I'm like, as a landlord, how on earth do you pitch? Went, well, we'll just get them to pay it all cash up front and we'll go for the one that's going to pay £100 extra a month. But that's the problem coming from the shortage of rental.
And it does sound hard, that, but as a landlord, especially when you take a lot of risk at the moment, and a lot of protection tenants do get, rightly so, because they are, renting a property. They are kind of just paying a mortgage, effectively. It's just a different way of how this is going about. But they do need that protection that, you can't just increase prices. You can't just kick them out when you want, which does happen in our industry, unfortunately, by some unscrupulous landlords, from this. But we do need more regulation. But I think for me in the marketplace, there's a lot more regulation and legislation coming down the line, which is quite scary altogether, but no one enforces it. And do you think that's an issue, that there is no enforcement?
100%. Like the EPC. So maybe 2 years ago, they raised EPC saying you can only rent out if it's E or above. The amount of Fs that are still in the market being rented out, and it's like nobody's watching. I know. And soon we're going to have EPC C. C, yeah. Or it's getting named different things in our industry at the moment. So I'm sure there's a few more that are going to come out as well. So Abby, thank you very much for coming on to the Real and Raw show. If the viewers want to find you, where can they find you? Instagram, YouTube. My name's Abby Hookway, or come check out my book on Amazon. Fantastic. Great to have you on board. Thank you very much.